Hey everyone, happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. It was a nice weekend down here. This is Alan Schimmel for Tech Strong Gang coming at you with our Monday show. We've got, as usual, some really good stuff to talk about, and we've got some great gang members to talk about it with. Let me introduce you to them. First of all, I'm going to, you need Jackson better to open up in here, so we've got a pair of Jacks. Jack Gold and Jack Poller, welcome both of you.
Thank you.
Joining the Jacks is the Dean, Mike Vizard, up in New York. Mike, welcome. How is everything?
Everything's great. How are you?
Good. Let's jump right into it. I teased we're having browser wars, but it's not Mozilla, it's not Internet Explorer, it's not even Mark Andreessen and Netscape. It's a whole new generation of browsers and a whole new war, perhaps. What do we got here, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here myself. Everybody seems to be talking about we're having a new type of browser and then we'll have some sort of AI functionality dropped into it. But every time I turn around and use my browser lately, some new AI functionality seems to be added to it. So it looks like Google's got to do much of the same thing. And I know the Firefox people are talking about similar things. And then we've got OpenAI, and I think Perplexity has Comet. So, my question to you, Alan, is this fight over even before it got started, or what do you think's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, kidding aside, browser wars just seem to be something that pops up every 10 years or so, it seems, but maybe 7. But, a couple things. First of all, it's very hard to say what the Perplexity and OpenAI browsers are going to do to challenge Chrome's dominance, because you really can't get your hands on them, right? The OpenAI version browser is rumored to be coming shortly. Perplexity, I've been on the waiting list for a couple of days already. I signed up, I think it was Wednesday when I first saw the news about it. But unless you're like a Perplexity Max customer or whatever the highest tier is, you can't. You're on a waiting list. So when I get it, I'll let you know. But here's the lay of the land. Chrome is the king of browsers. Google's Chrome. You've got Microsoft's Edge, which is a Chromium-based browser, and you've got Apple Safari, that has a bit of a loyal following. I don't know how loyal in the Mac world. But Google is certainly king. What's it going to take to topple them? Well, you probably need to reshuffle the deck, and I think we look at AI as a way to reshuffle the deck. Mike, as you pointed out, Google's been building AI into Chrome. Whether we call Gemini and everything else that they've called their AI over the last couple of years. I think a real issue here, though, is from a consumer user point of view. What does having an AI browser mean? Well, the first thing that pops into my mind is Big Brother, right? What is it going to, in order for it to work, it's going to have a lot of access into how I think, what I do, where I go. Is this just another big, that sucking sound you hear? Is all of your information being sucked up into somebody's LLM? And is that what this is going to be about? I hope not. But, I didn't even know Firefox was still out there, to tell you the truth. They're not much of a factor in market anymore. But we've been through browser wars before. We'll see. We'll see who wins this one.
Jack Gold, what's your take on this? Because it seems to me like, at least my first taste of all this stuff, the user experience is kind of clunky and cumbersome, and it's just random bits of information that's related to something that I'm looking at, and it's usually trivial.
Yeah, so there's a few things going on here I think that are important. Ellen, I certainly support everything you just said. But there's another piece to this, I think, and that is that ultimately, do you trust AI? Are you going to trust AI to give you the information that you want or that you need? And I think there's two parts to that. Number one is consumers are kind of open to this at the right price, which is free, right? Businesses, on the other hand, are willing to pay for a service, but they demand a lot more security and privacy capability. Imagine, I'll make something, a Bank of America, right? All of a sudden deployed Perplexity browsers to all of their users. Can you imagine the amount of information Perplexity is going to suck up from all of those users into their core AI capabilities? It's just not feasible. It's not going to happen. So I think you're going to see continued rollouts of AI. I think you're going to see more depth. Alan, you're right. Chrome has got the lion's share of the marketplace. I don't see that going away. Consumers don't switch unless there's a real reason to do it. And most people are pretty happy with Google, even though Google is, tracking us anyway, but they're going to stick with it. So unless you can find a real reason to change over, I mean, OpenAI or Perplexity has to offer some real benefit that Google isn't going to have. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. There is one other piece to this, by the way, and that is that, as you guys probably saw last year, the feds basically told Google they had to sell off Chrome because it was a monopoly. If they do, and one of these guys picks them up, then it changes the whole issue. And changes the whole marketplace. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Even if it ultimately happens, they're going to drag this through the courts for years. But that could be a game changer long term.
To that point, Jack, what I find is by the time the courts and the government get involved in something like that, technology has a way of taking care of it. If these AI browsers are in fact a better mousetrap, Chrome will get knocked off its perch. If they're not, they'll go away pretty quickly, like all of the recent iterations of Microsoft's browsers.
Yeah. But we can't underestimate Google's capability in AI. Sorry, Jack. And I think a lot of the market is underestimating what Google is doing in AI because it's less transparent to these big guys that have these huge financial inputs.
And I argue that these browsers aren't going away, and I think we have to split up and look at consumer behavior differently than enterprise behavior. And we had this discussion here, in fact, on the gang a couple months ago now, in terms of enterprise browsers and yet another, professional enterprise browser. And at the time I said, I don't understand why Google doesn't just start sucking these features into Chrome and killing that business. And part of it is because they're, as Jack Gold said, they're investing in AI very heavily. So on the enterprise side, there's a lot of different competition where enterprises look at very specific capabilities that they're concerned about in data security, identity security, data loss, all these other things. And that's helping them make a decision on one browser or another. If we look at the consumer side, however, what I think we're seeing, and this is a huge risk to Google, is a change in behavior. And that is people are not going to Google as their primary search engine, but they're instead going to the AI tools, particularly Perplexity, as a search engine. And wrapping that search engine up in a customized browser that can somehow take advantage of that and make that experience better is a huge risk to Google on the consumer side, not for the browser itself, but for Google's ad revenue. The more people start using the AI engines, the less money Google gets on ad placement.
Right. I hear that sometimes when, Tracy Reagan, who's down on the show today, is an example of that, where she says she always uses AI search first. But the data suggests that that's still the minority behavior. I don't know if it'll grow, but if the AI search is built into my standard browser and search engine anyway, I don't know if I'm going to go find another window to go look at something outside of Google, or, is inertia just going to be on Google's side?
Well, there's a couple of things there. Number one, I believe there is a Washington Post article talking about OpenAI's impact on Google search. Now, I gave up my Post subscription, so I don't have access to it. But numbers I've seen is that let's call it AI search versus regular Google search, is as high as 26% of the market. So still not a majority, but given for how long it's been around, 26% is a pretty decent number. But I think there's another reason why you're seeing people move, in this case, to AI searches. Google search itself isn't the Google search that we grew up with here, right? You search Google today first, you get your AI thing, right? Your AI summary or whatever, and it's gotten better. I'll give it that. Then you get about 3 or 4 sponsored posts. Then you get about 3 YouTube videos, and then somewhere down here you actually get your search results. And more often than not, they're kind of useless. I've had Google search results now that go to malware sites. I've had Google search results that are just nonsense. I almost get the impression that that whole Google search business, not counting the AI and sponsored stuff, is on autopilot and the guy's asleep at the wheel. So I think that's a bigger reason why people are looking for a new search. And that's
agreed.
driving it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would say in my peer group, now it's obviously not everybody because we're all in the high tech world, but in my peer group, most people, if they use Google search, they basically say, let's, page down past the first page of results and maybe even the second page, because it's either ad placement or search engine optimized results that are not, they're fake results. Right? They're not good. They're useless. And the value of some of the AI engines like Perplexity, I've used a lot, is that it gives you a summary of the output that you're looking for, plus links to all the places it's in. It's telling you where it's getting the information from. So I feel more confident in chasing backwards in its search, how it did it, and going and investigating further, than that it's not hallucinating and creating something out of whole cloth. And I think
here's the
some of the
challenge.
other engines do, and that's the problem.
But here's the ultimate long-term challenge. Today, people use browsers because they're free. And they're free because they're ad-supported. And they're ad-supported because Google's doing stuff to track you and know what you're interested in. Are they going to use AI systems that give them the information they're looking for, but have no way of generating revenue from that information? Because you're not going to be seeing ads. So that's the ultimate problem. That's the problem that Google has as well with the AI summary on top. A lot of people never go beyond that AI summary. And so ultimately their ad revenues could decline. And that's the problem with all of these guys is are you going to make me pay for using the Comet browser? Are you going to make me pay to use some of the other AI systems, which they may, maybe it's the freemium approach, but ultimately they've got to generate revenue. And so if you're not somehow showing me ads, how's that going to get paid for? And how many consumers are actually going to spend $10 a month or $20 a month or whatever the number is to get that information?
Well, but part of that comes in the use of the interaction from the users as training data. So it's going to lower the cost of the training data for the AIs. Whether that's sufficient, I have no idea. I mean, those economics are crazy to begin with.
It does trouble my soul a little bit that, some sort of carbon somewhere is being kicked off every time somebody generates a free AI thing for me. And I'm like, really, was it necessary? You could have just asked.
There is that. Look, it's browser wars. I guess we'll have to see. Until, as I mentioned, I'm on the waiting list for comment. When I get my hands on it, I'll give us a report of what I think. But I think it's just people don't value, on the consumer side, people don't value their privacy. They don't value their information. And this is just, a continuing, and I don't want to just blame OpenAI and Perplexity here. The Mag 7 tech guys, the Metas, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Apples, they are all just feasting like pigs at a trough on all of our personal information. And that's what makes their whole engines go round and round. And these $4 trillion, only NVIDIA's $4 trillion, but
So far.
so far, $2-3 trillion valuations.
I
And
will tell you though, I am careful now more, not as much as I should be, to think twice about what I do enter in for a search request or anything else, because I know I'm going to get inundated with all kinds of crap. So, and you'll never see me type in Red Sox because I just don't want all that kind of Red Sox information.
I do. I figure anyone who supports the Red Sox is going to spend money trying to sell to me. Bring it on. All right. On that note, let's take a break. We're going to come back and talk about V-Block here. Robots everywhere. You're watching Tech Strong Gang.